Around 2 weeks ago, Samsung introduced the Galaxy S20 FE, a smartphone that builds the bridge between the Galaxy A series and the Galaxy S series. Now, people who keep track on the smartphone market might have noticed that around 1 hour ago, OnePlus has introduced their new flagship too, the OnePlus 8T. And because I think both smartphones share many similarities, today we're gonna do a comparison between those. So today we're gonna be taking a look at the Galaxy S20 FE and the OnePlus 8T. So here I got the Galaxy S20 FE 5G in its cloud navy version and the OnePlus 8T in aquamarine green. Both phones have a flat screen on the front, a hole punch camera and a fingerprint sensor underneath the screen. But where are the differences? Let's find out. On the front, both phones rely on a large OLED display. The panel on the Galaxy S20 FE with 6.5 inches is slightly smaller compared to the one on the OnePlus 8T with 6.55 inches. Both of the devices are using a punch hole camera up front with a fan edition, having it in the center at 32 megapixels, while on the 8T it is located in the top left corner and has a resolution of 16 megapixels. The display quality is the same with 2400 by 1080. However, the pixel density on the S20 FE is a tiny bit higher with 407 compared to 402 ppi on the 8T. Both displays are manufactured by Samsung, so they're pretty much similar in terms of color accuracy and brightness. However, the bezels on the 8T appear to be a little bit smaller. It might just be me, but they look a little bit smaller. The displays are able to display up to 120 frames per second on the S20 FE and the 8T, which makes scrolling or browsing in general through the web, for example, more fluid and smooth. If you turn the devices now, you can see an aluminum frame on both of them. While Samsung uses a high gloss finish on the S20 FE, OnePlus goes with a more subtle and matte finish. The bodies have a thickness of 8.4 mm and are also similar in weight, with the FE being 190 grams and the AT being 188 grams. Of course, you got your volume rocker and the power button, the Type-C port at the bottom, and your speakers. But one thing I really appreciate on the AT and on OnePlus phones in general is that alert slider. This gives you the ability to switch from mute to, for example, vibrate without having to turn on your device. If we point our eye at the rear panel now, we see a 2020-like camera layout on both phones. The Galaxy S20 FE uses a combination of 12 megapixel main, 12 megapixel ultra-wide and 8 megapixel telephoto lens. While on the 8T, there's a quad camera setup based on a 48 megapixel main camera and 60 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and both a 5 megapixel macro as well as 2 megapixel monochrome lens. Now, which one of those cameras is more efficient at the end of the day? Now, I have to say that the one on the S20 FE is more efficient because I feel like using a macro and monochrome lens is just an excuse to say, look, we have 4 cameras on our phone and you don't. Now to the hardware and software. Both phones rely on absolute high-end. Hardly anyone is interested in benchmarks anymore, so in brief, under the hood of the S20 FE in 4G beats a Exynos 990 SoC, while on the 5G model as well as on the OnePlus 8T beats the Snapdragon 865. Both SoCs are powerful, however I have to admit that a Snapdragon chipset lasts my battery longer than an Exynos one. In addition, the Galaxy S20 FE comes with either 6 or 8 gigs of RAM, while on the 8T you can choose between 8 and 12 GB. In terms of storage, you can get either 128 or 256 gigs. However, the storage on the S20 FE is expandable with up to 1 terabyte additionally. The OnePlus 8T on the other side is lacking a microSD slot entirely, which is quite sad to be honest. For the batteries, there is no difference, at least not in their size. Both devices have a 4500 mAh battery capacity. But in terms of charging, there are some major differences. The Galaxy S20 FE is capable of being charged with up to 25 watts via cable. However, there's only a 15 watt charger included in the box. You also got the ability to charge the device through wireless charging with up to 15 watts. The OnePlus AT has no wireless charging at all, but there's 65 watts of cable charging instead. So you can charge your phone up to 40% in only 10 minutes. And in my opinion, that's really impressive. I mean, 40% in 10 minutes. So you got basically a charge for the entire day in around 20 minutes. If I had to choose between those devices in terms of charging capabilities, I'd probably go for the S20 FE because I'm just used to having wireless chargers all around me. Being it on my desk or in my car or in the kitchen, I got wireless chargers everywhere. The software on the Galaxy S20 FE is based on Android 10 with Samsung's own interface called One UI in version 2.5. The OnePlus AT in comparison comes pre-installed with Android 11 and Oxygen OS. At the very end of the day, each customer has to decide on its own if he or she prefers Samsung solution with One UI or OnePlus X Oxygen OS. One feature I'd like to point out is the fingerprint sensor. Both smartphones are using an optical solution here, which basically means that you got a small camera right underneath the display, which takes a photo of the fingerprint and compares it with the one you've used during the setup. If we go back to the overall design and the haptics of the phones, I have to admit that I prefer the OnePlus AT. It just feels more durable and more premium in hand. That's most probably because of the rear panel being made out of glass and not polycarbonate like on the S20 FE. But I'd wish OnePlus had used a matte finish here like Samsung did with the S20 FE. If we compare the 5G model of the FE and the AT now, both phones are pretty much similar in terms of specifications. Apart from smaller things like the amount of RAM and the ability to expand the memory via microSD card, there are also some bigger differences, especially when it comes to the charging technology. Now, which phone should you buy? I think both phones have their advantages and disadvantages, right? At the end of the day, I think it really comes down to 3 points: the memory, the charging technology, and of course, the price. The Galaxy S20 FE 5G currently retails at €730. The OnePlus AT, on the other hand, is priced at €599 with 8 and 128 gigs of storage and €699 for the 12 plus 256 gigabyte model. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about the devices, make sure to drop a comment down below. I'm Max from All About Samsung and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!